It's Halloween. The leaves are falling. And today marks 3 years that I've owned my black Honda Fit. But it might be time to dump this thing pretty soon. We've done a lot with this thing. I've pretty much started all of my manufacturing processes with this car. I got back into tracking with it, and it's been a great journey. But this build's gotten to a point where I don't really know if I want to go much further with it. The chassis is getting tired. This has been a Chicago City car for a long time, and I've already gotten a replacement for it. And you might be surprised to find out it's not this. And now, I know what you might be thinking. Last thing I need to do to replace a Honda Fit is yet another Honda Fit. And I know a lot of you, including myself, have been wanting a second-gen Honda Fit on the channel, and also just to make more parts with. I've been trying. You guys have seen I just took out those shift plates for the GE chassis, and they've been hugely popular. And trust me, I want to make more stuff for you. But I just had way too good a deal come up, and I couldn't pass it up. So without further ado, here is my new car. So yeah, this is what used to be Nick's 2008 Silver Honda Fit. And now, I know, I just got rid of a 2007 Silver Honda Fit. But this was really cheap, and it's super clean, and I couldn't pass it up. Nick, the previous owner of this car, just got the Dream Spec 2018 6-speed manual, white, sport Honda Fit. Great pickup, low mileage, so he had to get rid of this. And the dealer on trade-in wasn't gonna give him anything for it. They were gonna give him like $1,000. So we struck a deal. I picked it up for a really good price, but here's a caveat. I don't know if you heard it when it was pulling up. There's something going on in the drivetrain. I don't know if it's a clutch issue. I don't know if it's transmission bearing, but I'm gonna have to take the whole thing apart and fix whatever's wrong with it before I can really drive it. On top of that, the brakes are really sketchy. This thing, I almost got into an accident on the way home, so I haven't driven it in over a month, and I had to jump it just to get it started. But it did come with a couple little goodies, and you might have seen it in a couple videos where we did the fog lights to it. We've put on H&R lowering springs with new KYB suspension front and rear. And this thing is actually originally an Arizona car. So here in the Midwest, we're used to rust, and I've had to fight my fair share of rust, especially on the previous Silver Fit. But this thing is spotless. I mean, just look at these quarters. Beautiful. And I did have the rear end apart because this came with some fancy taillights that I got rid of. Sorry, Nick, I know you're gonna hate me for that. But I had the whole back bumper apart, and it's spotless underneath here. Usually on these Midwestern cars, the crash beam is just Swiss cheese, and this thing was immaculate. So it doesn't really make sense for me to just fix this and flip it and have a car that's not as clean when I could have had a perfect chassis. And as much as I hate having to start over, because we've put so much time and money into developing the black car, I've learned a lot and shared it with you all. So I'm hoping to be able to take all of that knowledge and make an even better version of the shop car with this car. But before we can get to all that, we gotta get these wheels off the car because they weren't part of the deal. So let's shift some cars around, get some of them up on the lift, and do some swapping. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, you had 2 Fits before, and winter's right around the corner. Why do you feel the need to get rid of this car that you've put so much time into, and it's kind of built your brand? Well, to be honest with you, some things are about to change, and I might not have the space for much longer. So I'm looking at possibly selling my property within the next, I don't know, 6 months or so. So I gotta start downsizing. I can't have four cars that are my own, plus all these other customer projects that I gotta finish, and do that in whatever next stage in life I have coming up. So I've got to downsize, and it doesn't really make sense for me to have so many vehicles. So my Civic will be for sale. This thing will more than likely be for sale, and I'm just gonna have the silver car, I think, with the turbo kit installed on it, and making all the horse puppies. And then my motorcycle, which I actually just got a new bike at the end of the season. Check it out. Suzuki SB650. Been loving it so far. Need to get some tires for it. So if you got a tire hookup, let me know. But yeah, stuff is changing. Life is getting crazy. And I've got a lot of stuff that I don't really talk about going on behind the scenes. You know, home life, family life, all that kind of stuff. That's been really crazy for me this year. It's been a wild ride. And I got to make some changes. And part of that is going to be losing my shop space and having to downsize. So I'm not going to be able to have all of the cool cars that I have, which I don't even really drive anyway. I've maybe put 2,000 miles on this car this entire year just because I don't drive that much. I don't commute to work. You know, I do all my running around mostly on a motorcycle. It was the Grom earlier this year. Now it's going to be the SV. And it's just little runs around doing grocery shopping or dropping off packages for you guys. You know, you guys been keeping me real busy with the website, which has been awesome, and I super appreciate. It's actually really letting me make this move that I need to make. And yeah, it just doesn't make sense for me. You know, like, I hate seeing stuff just sit around and not get used and kind of be wasted in that way. And I would much rather someone else, maybe even one of you guys, really enjoy these things, because this car is so much damn fun. You hear me talk about it every time that I touch this car. Every time I drive it, I'm like, man, why don't I drive it more? And it's just because I don't really have the need. You know, like, I didn't do all that much track stuff this year, which is this car's kind of main focus other than my daily driver. But I can do all that in version 2.0 with the other car, you know, and I don't have to make it as race car-ish if it's not going to be seeing track time all the time. And I can still have something that's super capable and super fun. So that's kind of my goal. So let me know what you think. If you were in my situation, would you try to keep the extra car, or would you try to just downsize and kind of live more within your means? Because that's kind of what I'm thinking. But enough about me talking about my problems. I'm sure you guys have your own slew of things that you're dealing with personally. So let's get back to car content, which is what we're all here for. We're going to swap the wheels on this for the first time in a very long time. I think these wheels have been on the car for almost 2 years now. Yeah, it's been about 2 years. So let's switch up the look, get this thing up on the lift, and I'll show you what I got in stock. So, might surprise some of you, but I'll be driving this through the winter. The last couple of winters have not been awful. I know I'm jinxing myself and everybody else in the Midwest by saying that right now, but I'm confident that it shouldn't be too bad. And again, I don't drive all that much, so even if it is, I can usually wait a little bit until the roads clear up. So yeah, this thing's going to be on winter duty, and the wheel that I have picked out for this is probably the last thing that should ever see Chicago winters in salt, but it's all I got, and I'm gonna make it work. So let me show you what I got. We've got black chrome 16x8 plus 38 Advan RGD2s, which is my all-time favorite wheel that I've ever owned. And it's a very rare discontinued color, so not the type of thing you want to be messing up. And like a dummy, I'm going to drive it through the winter. But they have got Continental DWS 06 Plus tires on them, which are amazing. But it kind of sucks because they only come in 16s and up, so I can't get them in 15s to put on other wheels. So we're going to make do. So let's pop these on the car, see how they look. They look really good on here, and they're actually pretty close in a couple of spots. This car has a ton of fender work, so the rears is what I was most worried about, and it looks like it might come in contact a little bit just with this bumper, so I might have to do something to pull it out a little bit. The other side is a lot better. This one pokes out a little bit, so that should be better. Doesn't look like there's gonna be any problems here. And then they also come really close to the inner liner right here, like barely get a finger in there. But I did lock the lock and it seems to be okay. That's most of the reasons why I am not putting it on this car, because this is all stock quarters and I know for sure they wouldn't fit. I had this exact same wheel and tire setup last winter on the Silver Fit I just got rid of at stock height, and they rubbed a little bit. So I know this being lowered just a touch, I think it's like an inch, it's going to just be touching all of the time and absolutely butcher the quarters. So can't run it on this just yet. So now we're gonna park that, get this in there, and throw some other wheels on. All right, we've got the nice, clean, beautiful Arizona car pulled in. There's a couple things about this car that I need to fix, but that will be all in the next video. The brakes are junk, parking brakes not properly adjusted, rear transmission noisy things will be at a later date. And these are way too beefy a tire, and because it's lowered, it's touching on the inside of the liners, and they're also not mine, so we gotta get rid of them. So we're gonna see if we can fit the wheels that were on the black car on this. I am not too hopeful because these are actually really aggressive specs. They are Miata sizing. So it's a 15 by 8 with a plus 25, which is really aggressive if you aren't running a ton of camber, which this isn't. The rears are very weak. They are 15, 6.5 plus 40. So these should be no problem. But in case that those don't fit, I've got another pair that I usually run as rears at the track, which are, instead of 8 wide plus 25 offset, they're a 7.5 wide plus 35 offset, so they're a lot less aggressive, which should fit no problem. So yeah, let's put it up on the lift, get some stuff off, see how these fit. Hopefully you can see this well enough, but here you can see the size difference between OEM tire size, this is a 205/50, and then whatever's on it now is huge. I don't even know what these are. They're like a 195/60 or something. They are 195/65. They're gigantic. The factory size is 195/55. So these are like, I don't know, 1.5 inches, nearly 2 inches larger diameter. So yeah, they're monster trucking. But we're saying bye to those, and we're throwing on some bronze in the rear. Get those on. Another thing I'm doing is getting rid of the factory locking lug nuts. I hate these things. They're very easy to strip. They don't work as well as they're really intended to, especially where it's crusty like the Midwest. And I'm just putting on a mismatched set of spline style lug nuts. The taper on the end of them is the appropriate taper for these aftermarket wheels. So instead of running OEM stuff, I'm just going to run this kind of mismatched set. It'll look a little crappy for the time being, but it'll get me by until I end up doing extended ARP, wheel studs, and some proper lug nuts on this like I have on the black car. Hard to tell because there's a lot of droop in factory suspension, but honestly, it's looking kind of good. There is a tiny bit of poke. Not a whole lot. I think that once the tire cambers in a little bit, it might have like the slightest bit of poke, but I think it'll be all right, especially since I won't be driving it really very much, just to move it around while the car gets worked on. I think it'll be all right. So let's get this other side on and then put it on the ground and see how it looks. And here we are. You might be able to hear that transmission noise, that rear kick. A lot more. And then when I press the clutch, quiet. Loud, quiet. So I'm really hoping it's just something clutch related, or maybe a transmission bearing, and not something that has to do with the engine, because I really don't feel like pulling another one. But I think wheels and tires look really good on this thing. The bronze on the silver is very up my alley. They are a little bit aggressive. You can see here that we're poking out about, I don't know, finger width, so probably like 13, 15 mil. So I think putting the slightly less aggressive wheels and tires on it would be the move eventually. These have, you know, street tires. They're summer tires. The other ones have track tires, and I really don't want the track tires sitting outside, as the temps are getting pretty low overnight now. You know, we are End of October, early November, starting to get down into the 30s. Track tires, don't really like that, but ooh, neighbor needs brakes. Pretty happy with this. So let's put the car away, go back in the shop, close this video out. And that's about all I've got for you today. It sort of feels like the end of an era. I mean, I've been here for about 4 years, and having to give the space up is going to be a huge change for me. I do think that the best course of action for me at this point, unfortunately, is to get rid of this car. So let me know what you think, what you do in my situation, what you'd like to see. I really don't think that trying to flip the Ciller car with as clean as it is going to end up being more worthwhile than, you know, like trying to clean this thing up to that point that that car's at. I just don't think it makes sense. I think just building off of like the cleanest shell possible is the way to go about it when you are getting that deep into a car. So yeah, I'm really thinking that this thing's going to be leaving me sometime in the next year or so. I do have a couple things I want to do on it and with it before that does happen. But if any of you are interested, let me know. I think that as it sits, I'd probably be asking somewhere in the neighborhood of $8,000 for the car. There is a lot more than that into it. And I know aftermarket parts don't make car prices go up, but it is a super sorted, very capable track car. It has done times at Gingerman with the best of Sunday Cup with a competent driver. You know, not me. David drove it. He did awesome. So yeah, I'm not parting the car out. Don't ask. I will ignore you and maybe even call you names. But I will be transferring some things over to the Silver car. I'm not entirely sure what that will be. I will probably be pulling the trigger on some stuff now that Black Friday's coming up to get the ball rolling on the Silver car. But before I really even start touching it, I need to start getting rid of some of the projects that are here that aren't mine, that have been here for entirely too long. So that is first on my agenda, as well as finishing projects to put new products on the site that I've been promising you guys for a long time. So it might be a little bit before we start really getting into the Silver car, but I think I will be doing some smaller episodes, just kind of getting through the car and getting it up to date on maintenance and cleaning it up a little bit and just getting a little bit more familiar to know what I need to order and start stockpiling some of the components for it. I am also going to be working with some new companies, so that is going to be exciting, and I will even have some discount codes for you guys coming soon. So that'll be cool. Be on the lookout for that. But yeah, that about does it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to everyone that keeps supporting me, my business, and what I do here with these silly little Honda Fits. If there's anything in particular you guys would like to see, as always, leave a comment. I try to get back to all of you as much as I can. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.